be no one better. Texas crown on my head forever. Raise the lights, hear the crowd get loud. I'm the boss of the ring, I'm running this town.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome once again. This is the Logan Pettis Show. It's the Logan Pettis Show because I'm Logan Pettis. This is my show, and we talk about whatever I feel like talking about. No guest on this episode of the Logan Pettis Show, but we're going to talk about maybe some RCW stuff. We're going to recap the RCW show from Sunday, September the 14th, RCW Honors, and we're just gonna unpack some of the things. I just came back from Canada. You can see my very handsome Brett the Hitman Hart shirt that I got at the Hitman's Bar. They're inside of Cowboys Casino in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. If I can be serious for a moment. Of course, those of you familiar with wrestling know Lance Storm. As you know, this isn't typically a wrestling podcast, but we're going to talk a little bit of wrestling today. We're going to talk a little bit about Canada. We're going to talk about just last week in general. Of course, a lot of things happen. It seems like I can't leave without some crazy stuff happening. The last time I left, I went home to Missouri to go and see my parents. And, you know, that's when the July 4th flooding happened in Kerrville, Texas. Hearts still go out to Kerrville. But this time I left, I went to Canada, and I already knew that 9/11 was coming up, and I'll get into that a little bit. But top of the week, and I hadn't even heard this until I got home, because, you know, it's a true vacation. Phones don't work in Canada unless you've got the plan, and who wants the plan, right? You go on vacation for a reason. I guess starting off at the top of the thing last Monday, and this was a story, and the video just broke me. But I think it was that on top of everything else. This young girl, and I can't even begin to pronounce her name, but you know what? Just because I'm gonna look it up here. I'm not checking out my TikTok here. I promise. But I feel like her name needs to be said. I was gonna skip it and not even try, but let me see. Here it is. So. She was a 23-year-old refugee from Ukraine. She had escaped all of the war and all of the craziness in Ukraine, and I believe she was living in Charlotte with her boyfriend and taking the train home, and she'd sent a text message. The last thing that had come out from this person was, you know, I'm on my way home, and of course, she never made it because what seems to be and I hesitate to say this because I don't want to generate any sort of animosity. I don't want to see any more hatred, but a possibly racially motivated. I haven't read anything else on this because I've kind of tried to stay away from the whole thing. But if I didn't talk about interesting things, you wouldn't be interested and nobody would listen to my podcast. But she sits down on a train and there's video of this, and this man pulls out like a little pocket knife. It's not like a big knife. This is like the little letter opener knife that my grandma used to play like mumbly peg with. He pulls this thing out and then just stabs her in front of all of these people, right? And then she looks at this guy. She looks him in the eye in sheer terror. Why are you doing this? And then, you know, the next thing you see is she's crying and she's got her head in her hands and then she just crumples over. And I didn't see this until after everything else had unfolded in the week. So that happens. And then I believe it was Wednesday evening, the situation. Oh, and I'm not even going to tell you again what the attacker said in this deal because, again, it only generates hate. And I'm not here for that. I don't even get political. If you notice, we don't get political on this show. I'm going to just kind of touch on this. And then, you know, we're going to move on to River City Wrestling and things like that. But anyway, Wednesday, the reports start coming in because every so often I'd get Wi-Fi and, you know, you'd see things and it's like, oh, well, this, and this. And so it would come across the thing and it says Charlie Kirk was shot in Utah, at University of Utah. And for those of you that don't know, I'm sure the whole world knows about this, but in case you've been living under a rock, Charlie Kirk was a political activist, a right-wing conservative guy that would go around to college campuses and places. I believe he's the meme sitting at the table that says, pineapple belongs on pizza, change my mind, right? And things like that. I believe that's him. He's the head of or was the head of Turning Point, and he's been around for a while now. But he'd go to college campuses, and that's what he would do. He would just have debates with people and sit down and have, like a discourse. And from what I've seen and know of him, he was very respectful about it and whatever. So, and obviously, when you come out and you tell the truth, people don't like that very much. I can speak from experience on that. People don't like that very much. In the wrestling business, I have come out and I have spoken the truth about certain things, and people don't like that very much. They don't like opinions. We can't have opinions anymore. We used to have entire like columns and news things and whatever based on, this is just an opinion. This is the opinion section. We can't do that anymore. We have to cancel somebody, or we have to get them fired from their job, and we have to just make life ridiculous for them. I remember a time when canceling somebody was, hey, Logan's a butthole, so we're not going to talk to him anymore, and we just moved on with our life, and, that something that we just can't do. We have to make a thing out of everything. And so that's what happened here. This guy said that Charlie Kirk was spewing hate, and he shot him just for speaking his opinion. He shot him. And then come to find out, this guy was dating a trans person or something, and it became this, well, Charlie Kirk speaks out against this, and we got to have that. Anyway, moral of the story is, a man should not have lost his life for having an opinion. And then the scary part is, half the world came out and celebrated it. I don't know. It comes down to, there's the meme, the Futurama meme of, I don't know if it's Bender on Futurama or if it's the professor, I don't remember, but they come out, I think it's the professor, and he's like, I don't want to live on this planet anymore. And that's the point that I got to by the time I got home and everything was hitting me and Saturday rolled around. But it's like, hachi machi, people. And then, so 9/11, I always get sentimental and mushy around 9/11 and think about what happened there. I don't know why I just pulled the bat jet into frame, but every year I do. I'm that guy. I don't want to forget what happened on 9/11. I promised I never would. Call me crazy and, the weird sense of patriotism. I loved every minute of that. As much as I disagree with a lot of things, I still love the country that I live in, right? I grew up at a different time from the kids today. We stood up every morning and we said the Pledge of Allegiance, and they would play. I remember this as a Lindbergh flyer at Lindbergh Elementary School in St. Joseph, Missouri. Every day they would play the national anthem, and we'd stand there, hands over our hearts, saluting the flag. They taught us patriotism. And so I do. I get nostalgic and weird around 9/11, and I will watch footage. I like to get on YouTube and I will watch footage that didn't even make it to the news, like it's, man on street footage, and some of it gets pretty graphic. That's another thing about this, like, Charlie Kirk thing, and I will get into that right now. I'm scrolling Facebook, right? And I think it was a wrestling page, and they're like, oh, here's a video of, it was mislabeled, I don't know. You want to see something about Macho Man versus, Bret Hart. And you click on it, and it's the video of the Charlie Kirk assassination. What? And then I find out that, like, they've put this all over TikTok and whatever. Again, people are sick. People are out of their minds. And it's just out there for kids to find. And then, so, okay. And that's on to the cancellation thing. I know I jump around. Welcome to the ADD show, but it's Logan Pettis' show, and I'm Logan Pettis. Okay, celebrating somebody's death is horrible. Making fun of somebody's death is horrible and weird and just deplorable, but I have to watch what I say here, folks, because people will have me canceled. Do I believe that you should lose an entire livelihood? I don't know. There's a freedom of speech thing that comes into play here. You should have common human decency. Okay, now, having said that, do you have every right as an employer to be like, hey, this guy said something stupid over here, and he's representing our company. Like, if I, worked for Pizza Hut and I went on, the deal and said, pick something stupid, XYZ here. I don't, Yeah, by all means, especially if I'm in my Pizza Hut gear, forget that guy. I mean, that's a PR nightmare. I pulled sponsorship for a wrestling company because they went into a whole thing. So there you go. I don't know. It's this weird slippery slope we have. They've pulled Jimmy Kimmel off the air and suspended him indefinitely for things he said. Okay, I do agree with the firings. Here you go. Here's one. I agree with the firings of teachers. Teachers have been coming into classrooms. I keep seeing these reports. Actually in Seguin, not too far away, I believe a teacher went in and showed students this video and was like, blah, and then proceeded to spat out, I'm sure, rhetoric, anti-Charlie Kirk rhetoric, and painted him to be just an awful guy. That person deserved to lose their job. You don't do that. They're just teaching hate to children. Yeah, I'm not for that. I don't know. It's a rough thing. I debated even talking about it, but I'll talk about it. I guess because it's the cool thing to do. But that's my opinion. A song came out 24 years ago regarding 9/11 and Alan Jackson. I'm right there. I'm just a singer of simple songs. I'm not a real political man. I don't get into politics. Politics isn't really my cup of tea. I follow them because I like to know what's going on in my country, but I don't follow them to the nth degree like certain people. Some people can point at the pundits on TV and tell you who they are. I have no idea. I know who Glenn Beck is. I know what Rush Limbaugh looked like. The EIB radio network. And they're just talking heads. So anyway, that's something that happened. Let's talk about Canada. If you've never been to Canada, if you've never been to Lake Louise, went to Lake Louise and Lake Moraine Lake, up there in Canada, up in Banff. I hiked all over the Canadian countryside. It took me probably like 4 days before my legs were like, hey, to stop being like, what are you trying to do to us? Lots of beautiful scenery. I'll try and put some pictures here in the deal so you can kind of see them. Just amazing, unfiltered, picturesque mountain scenes, and just a wonderful time in Canada. Went and saw Leonard Skinnard in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And okay, I will say this, juxtaposed to everything that I knew was happening, all of the hatred being spewed and all of the stuff and whatever. I love this about music and about things, and it brings people together that you don't necessarily see together. And everybody is happy and everybody is kind of united as one. And that's the sentiment that I remember. We go back to the 9/11 thing. See, we're going to jump around here. But 9/11 was something, tragic and horrific. And I remember sitting in school and I had all my little classmates around me, and I'm cracking jokes as I do. I won't say that I particularly find myself funny. Do I amuse myself at times? But somebody's got to laugh. But they tell me all the time, you're a funny guy. And so, I'm trying to amuse everybody around me because it's just, I can't handle all the sadness. Obviously, I'm trying to get through talking about the last week. The last week was a very sad week. This week has been a little better, but I've also tried to stay away from all the nonsense. It is funny to watch the people that have lost their jobs because they're having to pay the consequences for their words from, employers and stuff. But then there's, everybody else. And I saw this that said if the 9/11 attacks were to happen today, that half the country would stand up and be like, it's true. It's sad, but true. Metallica right there. But anyway, so Canada, picturesque. Leonard Skinnard is where I was. And yeah, it's really cool to see all the rockers coming together and all the just people. And it was a random Wednesday and everybody was excited to go hear this Southern rock band up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. But of course, Calgary has the Stampede, which is like the world's largest rodeo. So they're kind of like cowboy folk anyway, I would say, up there in Canada. And then we did get the cool guy next to us with the beard, and the gray hair. And he's, I'm sure, been rocking out to some for decades. And he's like, it's going to be a great show. Enjoy it. And so that was a cool deal. Got some poutine. For those of you that don't know what poutine, they take fries, they put cheese curds up there, and then they slather it in gravy. And that's thebomb.com if you've ever had it. And then they can add brisket and stuff to it. Went to shout out to Three Bears Brewing Company in Banff. They brew all of their beer with glacier water. If you watch the sister channel to my channel, which is The Geographic Gypsy, An Unexpected Journey. There should be a video popping up hopefully soon from that. You also can see me chug maple syrup at some point. Yes, I drank a bottle of maple syrup. It was delicious, but that's just what you do in Canada. Speaking of things that I had to drink, we should have done the video on this. But up at Moraine Lake, me being the water nerd that I am and, have treated water and I have a license in that, I was like, I want to try some of this water. This is, it's got this blue tint to it, but it's the clearest, it's cold, just amazingly beautiful water to look at. And it's all been kind of trickle filtered as it goes down the mountain. For those of you that don't know, in wastewater systems, you have a thing called a trickling filter. And basically that's exactly what it's simulating is water going down rocks and cascading down stuff, and it eliminates a lot of the impurities and the bacteria and the things that are in the water. So as this comes down, I'm like, this has got to be good, clean water. So I took a little sip, not enough that it would, cause me some stomach issues, but just a little bit. And it was the purest. It was cold. It was clean. It was delicious water from Moraine Lake. I don't know that you're supposed to do that. Probably not, but I did. There you go. It's probably not the worst thing I've done on a vacation. In fact, I can tell you that it's most certainly not. So yeah, Canada, Leonard Skinner bringing people together. Bret the Hitman Hart's bar, really cool if you ever get a chance to go in there. If you're a Bret the Hitman Hart fan like my friend Haley Danielle, shout out to Haley. We'll talk about her here in a minute. Finally got to meet her after I've been her Facebook friend now for like 7-8 years, something like that, since I've been kind of in the wrestling business. And if you haven't seen the video of her slamming the guy through the table at the karaoke, I recommend that you look that up on YouTube. But she is like my only diehard, like Bret the Hitman Hart fan that I know. But yeah, I got to go see the Hart House, got to see the bar. In the bar is everything you can imagine Bret Hart. There's a display in the back that's got the belt that he won from Ric Flair back in, I think it was 93. Because Flair won the Royal Rumble. Flair won the Royal Rumble in 92? I'm going to get slaughtered in the comment section if I get this wrong, and I don't want to look it up. But, and then Bret Hart won as Flair was on his way out of the company, headed back to WCW. So that's really cool. And then, yeah, flew home, and then it was time for the RCW show. So let us recap the RCW show. We got all the heavy stuff out of the way. Now we're gonna do a quick little recap. Sunday, September the 24th. Doors opened at 4 p.m. We had a 4:30 start time because a lot to get to. If you want to check it out on Title Match Network. I think the subscription there is $9.99, the old WWE Network price. You can watch all the indie wrestling that you want on Title Match Network. So shout out to Title Match Network, of course, on behalf of River City Wrestling. Hey, if you guys want to sponsor my show, please feel free. And then, of course, RCW social media, the RCW Forever website, www.rivercitywrestling.net. And you can get RCW shirts, which I'm not wearing one. I have my Bret the Hitman shirt on. But you can get your RCW shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. You can also pick up Logan Pettis merchandise, as well as our sponsor, Uncle Wiggly's Wieners. You can pick up shirts from them at ProWrestlingTees.com/Logan Pettis right there. Again, that's ProWrestlingTees.com/Logan Pettis. Our next event will be Sunday, November the 23rd at the Good Shepherd Lutheran Activity Center. If you're in the San Antonio area, please come on by. Tell them Logan sent you. Stop by, shake my hand. We'll take a picture. I'll do the Triple H finger point, and that'll be a hoot. And I'm not going to run down the RCW sponsors, but we had 2 pre-show matches. We had Armani Sage versus Chaos Galvan. Armani Sage came into that match feeling on top of the world. Bravado, money-driven schemes set the stage, but in the ring, there is absolutely no one to pay off. And for Chaos, the night carried extra weight. As in later on, he would induct his father, Ben Galvan, former RCW champion, into the RCW Honors Class of 2025. But before the celebration, Chaos, of course, ready to make Sage pay in the most personal way possible. And of course, Armani took that match, and but it was a hard fought battle. Armani Sage. I mean, outside of him berating poor Carolina Teague, friend of the show, I like this guy. He's kind of a chip off the old block, really, as far as I'm concerned, with the way he likes to throw his money around. I mean, I can't hate him for that. If you got it, flaunt it, baby. You know what I'm saying? Use it to your advantage. I always have, so I can't be mad at him. But it's going to be interesting to follow this guy's career and see exactly where he goes from here. But yeah, he defeated Chaos Galvan. And then we move on to, here's where I get to talk about the bombshell Haley Danielle accompanying bulletproof Alex Arsenal. What a lucky guy he is. Versus Jacob Toa. Of course, bulletproof Alex Arsenal is the RCW International Champion. As you can see the belt hanging up behind me. This, of course, is Anthony Andrews' belt that he held for 3 years. I will never not point that out. The man was champ for 3 years, thanks to a great manager. The, of course, RCW Manager of the Year. Awesome that they knew nobody else could ever take the crown from me. They just disbanded the entire contest. They threw everything at me to try and stop me. Couldn't stop me. And then when they were like, well, this guy just keeps winning, it was like, that's it. So, undisputed, man, forever Texas Wrestling Review Manager of the Year, Logan Pettis. However, for some reason, I don't get to manage anymore. Anyway, I'm the general manager of the show. I can't complain. I'm running things now. Anyway, so Alex Arsenal comes out with the bombshell at his side. And, now, she almost proved to be a little bit of a distraction, but you know what? Hats off to the bombshell, because when Jacob Toa came out and went after her, and Alex Arsenal came to the rescue, you know, she wasn't your ordinary damsel in distress. She said, hey, get your tail back in there and you take care of him. So that's what happened. Of course, Alex walks out with the RCW International Championship, but he defended that title with persuasion. Easy for me to say. Persuasion. Like Elmo Fudd. Arsenal defended his title with precision and swagger, but the night offered no birthday cake, just a storm named Jacob Toa. Of course, we got to throw the birthday reference because Alex Arsenal just celebrated. I cannot speak. Celebrated, that's a combination. I'm thinking about that birthday cake is what I'm doing, and I'm salivating. I'm a fat kid, I can't help it. And Toa's power and relentlessness turned technical mastery into survival. So, but Alex got to celebrate Striker versus Brute, Finesse versus Force, and, you know, Alex Arsenal came out the victor. And, of course, he got the bombshell at his side for a little bit of extra inspiration, I'm sure. So, welcome, Haley Danielle, the bombshell, to River City Wrestling. Excited to have you. And then, so before the match, before the show started, he chose an opponent for Chris Marvel, and I don't think I could have chosen a better opponent. We came within inches of taking out the Texas Treats, folks, and we'll get to that here in a second. I'm tired of the disrespect, I really am. From the Texas Treats right down to the commentary team and some of the comments that they made, just absolutely disrespectful. And then what happens? Somewhere in the night, the Hybrid School of Wrestling decided to do a gang-style beatdown of the Galvans. And that is just absolutely ridiculous and not something that RCW management will stand for. And mark my words, Chris Marvel, since you were behind it, you and your Texas Treats who are literally the worst, there will be consequences. There will be hell to pay. Mark my words. All right, moving on to the rest of RCW honors. We have the first match was Vin Parker versus Brock Ali. This kid, Brock Ali, I tell you what, breakout star. Lots of momentum on the line. Brock Ali with his raw power and relentless intensity, the kind that overwhelms opponents before they can even settle into the match. And then on the other side, you had Vin Parker. He's a grinder, a competitor who thrives on resilience and outlasting his opponents. That match, all about proving who's next in line to step up the RCW ladder. And they put on a banger. But I knew that it was going to because of the two people that we had in the ring. Vin Parker, I believe, came to us from, was it the Dustin Rhodes School? Anyway, young blue chipper, and then Brock Ali from the Hybrid School of Wrestling came in, and phenomenal match. Brock of course, got the better of then and walked out the victor there. We got to see Jeremy Sage, my broadcast colleague over there at RCW, as I've been, sitting at the commentator's desk for the last couple of shows, but he came out and introduced his good friend Lance Hoyt, Lance Archer, Shadow, Steel, Breakdown, Rock, Archer, whatever you want to call him. He's been a dominant force in professional wrestling for over 2 decades, from the Texas Indies to TNA to WWE, New Japan, and now he is currently with AEW. His hard-hitting style and infamous motto, "Everybody dies," making him a true global star. And of course, Hoyt again inducted by his good friend Jeremy Sage. He told some cool stories. One involving he was supposed to fez press and he ended up gorilla pressing. And if you know anything about wrestling, those are 2 entirely different moves. Anyway, so right into the next match. Exciting. We have new tag team belts. We have a new women's tag team division. So out trots Raina Pink, women's general manager. And she comes out with, her little blue jacket on. She's got her tag team belts. And here we go through the thing. And we got to see the new women's tag team championships, which look mysteriously like the old men's tag team championships. But we're not going to talk about that. Pink, what happened there? Anyway, so we have Fire and Fury, Morgan Mercy, and Nova Phoenix, and Denise Day, and then we had a mystery opponent, Ridley Thorne, unable to compete. The replacement was announced at RCW Honors, and we'll get to that in a minute. Fire and Fury, of course, if you don't remember, dominated Denise Day and Ridley Thorne at Stars and Stripes Forever. So anyway, music hits. Who do we have? None other than La Leona herself, Alejandra Quintanilla, former RCW Women's Champion and 2-time Phoenix Champion. This is her comeback, and she did an amazing job tag teaming with Denise Day. You'd have thought that these two had tag teamed with each other for a long period of time against the terrifying Fire and Fury. Those girls scare the fire out of me. The Fire and the Fury, for that matter. A little bit of a misdirection between Fire and Fury, and we end up with like a roll-up on Nova Phoenix, I believe, and then, La Leona and Denise Day walk out with the champions, your inaugural RCW Women's Tag Team Champions. So, hats off to them. Hats off to Raina Pink for creating an entire division within RCW that never existed before. And of course, Raina Pink, we'll talk about her. Her and Darcy. She and Darcy were a formidable tag team back in the day, and they would have got to compete for these belts had such a thing existed. But, it was a man's world back then, and we didn't have things like that. So, again, shout out to Pioneer Pink. Then Chris Marvel comes out and gets booed, as he should, because he's an awful human being. And he introduces Steve James, who's been around since 2005, fixture in the RCW crowd, cheering on generations of wrestlers, standing tall as one of the most loyal supporters of RCW. In 2014, he faced the toughest battle of his life and made a courageous comeback, showing the same heart and resilience that he always brought as an RCW fan. RCW loves its fans. For 2 decades, his passion has elevated RCW, and he received the Fan Appreciation Award presented by the current RCW heavyweight champion, Chris. And then from Chris Marvel, we go to Diego Rene versus, well, of course, Diego Rene with J-Wave. I'd tell you something. That J-Wave, he gets on my nerves. I'd like to rip his arms off, and then maybe we can just call him J. Anyway, I'm not a big fan of Diego's either. Diego likes to walk around calling himself the greatest international champion that ever lived, and I'm like, excuse me, sir, 3 years! 3 years! I managed the guy that was the RCW champion, the greatest probably RCW international champion ever. You held it for what, 3 months? Something like that? Anyway, this match has happened several times, actually, Diego and Casey. I want to say, and I might get slaughtered in the comment section for being wrong, and I brought this up on commentary, not that anybody would know because these other 2 yahoos like to bury me, but I believe the one time that I managed Casey Blackrose at the Hybrid School of Wrestling was against Diego Rene, and Casey ended up winning that match. I searched online trying to find Casey and Diego matches just to get some statistics. And I couldn't find one where Diego came out on top. So I thought that was interesting. But Black Rose carried the Future Legends Championship with swagger and edge, setting himself apart as one of RCW's brightest, thriving on pressure in the spotlight. And I can say that, Casey is one that believes in himself, man. Casey to Casey is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. We want to talk about Bret the Hitman Hart, and I mean, there might be something to say for that. Casey has trained hard, said his prayers, and taken, his vitamins. So there you go. I know he just lives in the ring, lives in the gym. I don't even know what else he does. And so for 364 days, just 1 day shy of carrying the RCW Future Legends belt for a year, Casey Blackrose goes up against Diego Rene, who saw this as his breakthrough moment. Young, hungry, and fearless, Rene wants to prove that he's not just the future, he's the now. And, that's something that I always used to stress about clients. Everybody, they're like, we're the next big thing. Remember Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman? That was Heyman's thing. He's like, the next big thing, Brock Lesnar. And I always hear that. I'm the future. I'm the next big thing. Casey's the future legend. This and that. I'm like, what about now? Who's taking care of the now? And that's what I always look for in a client. I wanted somebody who could come in and be the now legend, the now champion. And I'm always still looking for that one person. I haven't come out of gone into retirement, full-blown retirement as a manager. I'm just kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting for the right opportunity and the right client, folks. So competitive match, and then of course, J-Wave has to get involved because I thought maybe we were going to make it through without, J-Wave's involvement, but that idiot got up there and did his thing, and then Diego stole the title. Casey took a wicked guillotine from the chair. Like, what a lovely singing voice he's going to come out of this with. He's going to sound like somebody else that I know. Constantly has to talk like this now, and you can't understand a word he says. But, yeah, wicked guillotine shot from that off the chair as Diego picked it up, and he throws it to Casey and then trips him up, and bam! It was wicked to watch, folks. Almost as wicked. Poor Casey, when you think about it, he's had a lot of like neck stuff. Because I recall in Brandon Weiss's retirement match over at the Von Erich Ranch, Casey was being hung off the steps. So anyway, I like my note here. It says, Brandon Oliver comes out and gives a short speech and introduces his good friend and RCW original videographer, longtime collaborator, Josh Long. It says, RCW thrives not only on the action in the ring, but also on the dedicated professionals behind the curtain. Josh Long has been one of those vital forces handling event production, videography, and photography. His dependable creative work has enhanced the look and feel of every RCW event. He will be inducted by RCW promoter Boom Boom Brandon Oliver, and they came out. And actually, something? Josh said in his thing, he talked about he and Boom Boom are like brothers, and like, brothers and like family, and I can speak from experience. You laugh together, you have fun together, and it's really great until it's not. And then when you have a fight, sometimes it's the most nuclear fight you can think of. I've experienced that. New generation singers, but we're not going to talk about that. But, speaking from experience, working for Boom Boom at RCW has been fun. And then there's been other times when Brandon and I are yelling and screaming at each other over whatever. So when it's fun, it's fun. And then when it's not, it's not. But I reiterate everything that Josh said in his speech. Actually thinking about it, I was like, yeah, I can echo a lot of those sentiments right there. I've been hired and fired by Boom Boom at least twice that I can think of. Yeah. So anyway, actually it was said to me one time not too long ago. I said, out of every promotion, everything that, and I guess I haven't worked for a lot of stuff. I worked for Mission Pro, and then I worked for AWR for a short period of time. But in that, RCW was always the place that I wanted to be. And I told Boom Boom one time, I told Brandon, I said, I bleed RCW. And he went on this whole thing about it's unhealthy to do that. And I'm like, well, it might be, but it's the truth. Promote that brand until I'm blue in the face. Actually, even when I wasn't around, I still had, the belts hanging up, and we still made sure to promote RCW stuff. So yeah. Anyway, love RCW, and that's why it's taken up a significant chunk of what I'm doing right here on the podcast. RCW, we're on match number 4. We have an RCW Women's Championship featuring the RCW Phoenix champion Emmy Kamacho versus Ray Lynn, a newcomer to RCW, and champion Calientita. And it was very obvious from the deal, where is J-Wave? What is going on with this? Where's J-Wave in the Calientita match? Calientrita, if you will. Only the RCW Women's Championship was on the line. Calientita blazing through the division with fire, spiciness, and flair. However, I will say this, question mark still next to her name because of her nefarious and dubious actions here a year ago when there was the double pin. I'm sure you guys remember this with La Leona. And what did she do? Instead of doing the right thing, she just absconds with the title, and then I have to pull another belt out of storage, and here you go, because we had to right the wrong. The champion deserved a belt. The rightful champion still and always will be La Leona. Even if, Calientita did finally beat her, there's still that question mark over her name because, she did not beat her that night. It's still up there in the air. And that's not discounting or trying to bury Calientita. That's just what happened. She could have done the right thing and turned around and said, no, here, have your belt back. At the next show, I'm taking it from you. We'll know who the true champion is, but instead, no, she ran around and was a pretender to the throne. So, womp. I still stick by La Leona, RCW Women's Champion. Was the Women's Champion. Calientita, don't get me wrong, is the rightful Women's Champion right now. So, I just don't want Calientita to come after me. La compañera del whatever. No. I acknowledge you as the champion, tribal chief, right here. Where was I? Spiciness and flair, proudly representing San Antonio as the standard bearer. Her willingness to do whatever it takes to win has made her a dangerous champion. Yeah, whatever it takes to win, including cheating, but I can't say anything. Not that I ever cheated, ever. September the 14th, Emmy Camacho will reach 694 days as champion. By the next show, she will have been the Phoenix champion for 700 days. And in my opinion, that makes her the greatest Phoenix champion of all time. That's better than Christy Janes, La Leona. Who else has held the Baker, David Leach? People I'm not even going to mention. Yeah. Greatest Phoenix champion of all time. It's a reign etched in grit and determination, and she's outlasted every type of challenger, proving herself as the heart of the Phoenix division. Ray Lynn, she comes in with experience. She has a reputation. She derails momentum. Honors will test whether Calientita's rise continues or if Ray Lynn shocks the system. So anyway, we had this wonderful, three-way match. Through a lot of it, it seemed like Calientita and Emmy Camacho teamed up, which, hey, ladies, again, as I stressed on commentary, try and get along, because you guys can make a great tag team and be fantastic contenders for the Women's Tag Team Championships, and I think it would be cool for each of you to have the two belts. You come out with the thing, being the Phoenix champion and the RCW Women's Champion at the same time. I don't know. You don't have to get along. You just have to have chemistry. Look at Pink and I. Pink and I don't get along half the time, but, we put our brains together, and we can usually come up with a pretty entertaining show for the RCW fans. So think about it. Just ponder these things. But yeah, there was a lot of those two double teaming and working together against Ray Lynn, and then, of course, we take out these poor fragile referees, and then out comes Fire and Fury for some reason. I don't know. Maybe they're frustrated about losing earlier in the evening. But Fire and Fury come out, and they just decimate Ray Lynn for reasons I'm not going to ask them. They decimate Ray Lynn. Callie slides in, takes a pin, or goes for the pin. Ray Lynn kicks out. And then just when you think that Ray Lynn's going to come back, Calientita cuts it off. Boom, finisher. And that's all she wrote, folks. Callie Antita walks out with her RCW Women's Championship. And then that leads us back to the worst. Here comes Doofus Don Juan with his 2 sets of glasses. Like, what is going on here? I don't have, we're going to demonstrate. He has he comes out. He's got his glasses on. Then he's got another stupid pair of glasses on underneath it. I think he needed a third pair, really. And then he comes out and we get the most lavish introduction for anybody ever. Of course, it's his wife. But anyway, few would have worn as many hats in professional wrestling as Felicia Extreme, wrestler, manager, announcer, interviewer. Her versatility and positive energy lift up everyone she's ever worked with, a true trailblazer in the Texas indie scene. And of course, Don Juan bigs her up in tremendous fashion. I will give hats off to Don Juan. And then, of course, she has Devin Carter accompanying her down to the ring and gives her speech. And then we have match of the night, in my opinion. I could have watched this all night long if we had time. And that is, it went straight up 15 minutes. Epidemius Jr. versus Jesse Funaki. I didn't take notes on the thing as I was actually actively watching the match. You can go back and watch it on Title Match. So Epidemius Jr., the spotlight hitting 2 of Texas' fastest rising stars, Epidemius and Jesse Funaki. Epidemius had a bit of bad luck since losing the RCW Championship match at RCW Mania due to the interference. And again, somebody that's just a despicable person for aligning himself with despicable people. I had no issue with this guy until he did what he did, and that's align himself with the Texas Treats, and that is Alberto El Patron. Anyway, yeah, he comes out and he interferes, and sorry, I gotta compose myself. All right, so does the momentum come back? The match, it's gonna be friendly but highly competitive. Most matches contain an element of hate and vengeance. This one, however, is simply about who is better. I sat down when I came up with the idea for this match. We needed a match. And I said, you know what? Let's take 2 of the best competitors we have in River City Wrestling today, 2 up-and-comers, that can tear the house down. If you remember, match of the year last year was Epidemius Jr. versus Fuego del Sol. And, oh my gosh, somebody almost got dropped on their neck. Like, I thought Epi was gonna die, and that was terrifying, but that match brought the house down, and so that was the energy that I was hoping for, and that's exactly what they brought. You are absolutely welcome. Let me entertain you, and I'm pretty sure that I and Epi and Funaki, Jesse Funaki, that is, indeed entertained you. The match went to a 15-minute time limit, and the crowd, of course, 5 more minutes. And we had another induction to get through. We had 2 more matches on the card. As much as I would have loved to have seen this go on, sometimes, as the boss of the ring, as the general manager of RCW, you have to make the tough calls. And so I made the call, and here I showed up, dressed up as Jack Napier's stunt double, and came out and said, gig is up here, boys. We cannot go on for another 5 minutes. We will have to pick this match up in the future, possibly RCW Acceleration. I will speak to Boom Boom and the board of directors at RCW, and we will just have to see where we go from there. So following that match, and my apologies to the crowd, of course, we have the Galvans come out and introduce their dad. Of course, New Style Ben Galvan, who carries on the proud Galvan legacy in Corpus Christi. New Style Ben Galvan has been both a fierce competitor and a driving force as promoter of Gulf Coast Wrestling Alliance, the GCWA, which I've been there with Mysterious Q, and we defended this belt, actually, right here, that exact belt. I call that Q's belt because it got defended. Former RCW champion, tag team champion, Galvan's influence extends beyond the ring, ensuring that South Texas wrestling thrives for future generations. And so he comes out and he gives his speech and is inducted. And then we have the match. So here we go. Typical Texas Treats Nonsense. Nonsense. I'm trying to give, the big rally, for Team RCW for the men's division. Hey, guys, we're going to do this. We got a great match coming up, and this is going to happen. And, I want everybody to go out and be safe. And then here come these chuckleheads. They're not there at the meeting, and I choose to ignore it because all it's going to do is, quite frankly, piss me off. And so I'm mid spiel, and here they come, creeping in the door, and they act like the complete clowns that they are. And so it infuriated me. And so if there's one thing, I've been called a lot of things in my career, right? I've been called arrogant, punchable, crap-eating. Maybe all of those things are true. However, there's one thing I can't stand. I've let a lot of stuff fly too. I've done some despicable things. You got me. But if there's still one thing I can't stand, I cannot stand a bully. And that is exactly what Chris Marvel and the Texas Treats are. I know, David. David Teen clamored, please let me back in the Texas Treats. But, I'm sure you thought that they were your friends, your brothers, and your sister. I don't know what's going on with Callie and Tita. But where did they leave you, Dave? They left you high and dry. So I decided that David Teen needed a photo opportunity. He needed a shot at redemption. I didn't want to see him wind up a cartoon in a cartoon graveyard. Bone digger, dogs in the moonlight. So I sent David Teen out there because I knew he was fired up and I knew he had potential. And then the Treats tried to play with his mind. They said, if you come and lay down for us, we'll let you back in. Despicable. But you know what? David, to his credit, I like him. Not very much, but I like him because of his tenacity, his spirit. He got in there and he put up a fight. He put up a hell of a fight. And he came within that close. He was very close, but he just couldn't contend with the Treats being ringside, and there was nothing I could do about that. I was told that per this and then per that, I'm big on the rules. The Treats have the right to be out there because reasons. Sometimes the rules come back and bite you. That's all I can say. But David, buddy, I'm proud of you. You went out there. We'll get them next time. But I'm going to do something about these Texas Treats, and finally, this was the first step. And I've finally been allowed to do something. I don't even know that I want to say that I was allowed. I just kind of did. So that's the story of my career. Next match. Again, back with the Armani Sage and the money. So he's paid these two big powerhouses. And if you know me, I love a good powerhouse team. If you recall, once upon a time I had Overkill and Anthony Andrews on my team, and then of course Raina Pink was in there, and all these hosses, these strong powerhouses that just get stuff done all together. And so that's kind of what this reminded me of, this tag team of Hit, who's got the thing that you can't teach, and that's height. He's 7 foot tall. And then Jimmy House, who is not 7 foot tall, but he is a house. Like, he is built, baby. I liked his singlet. Speaking of the Hitman, he had kind of like the Owen Hart singlet, the pink and black. And anyway, they took on the Texas Heroes, folks. The masters of the Iron Claw, the Von Erichs, Ross and Marshall, of course. Armani Sage's checkbook has become his sharpest weapon. Trust me, folks, if you got money, you got power. He stacked Hit and the powerhouse Jimmy House. Of course, if you remember, they brought the house down, no pun intended, at RCW Stars and Stripes Forever at the Von Erich Ranch. Sage assembled this team, engineered to overwhelm the Von Erichs. His mission is simple: break Texas' most iconic wrestling family and take the gold. Of course, Ross and Marshall making careers out of defending their family's name against mercenaries. Honors is another battle in that legacy. Muscle versus tradition. Hired guns versus hometown warriors. And again, another miscue. Poor Armani got the worst of that. He got involved, and then stuff happened, and Hit and House had enough of him, and they both suffered double iron claws. Yeah, they had enough. They walked out on poor Sage, Jeremy Sage. No, not quite. Armani Sage, it was left in the ring, and he got his from the Von Erichs, and he was laid out for quite a while. Like, we'd already gone to the back, the show was over, people were going to their merch tables, and he's still laying in the ring. Like, I had to go check on him as I was coming by and trying to, clean up trash and things, as a good general manager does. Yeah, he was laid out. We got a referee. Finally, somebody escorted him out of the ring, but he was laid there for quite some time. I feel for him. I really do. But better luck next time, kid. That's all I can say. You gotta be careful when you're throwing that money around. Trust me. I know. And that was the RCW Honors Show. Actually, fun side note, if you take a look at my socials, I love to collect random wrestling junk. I have rundowns from shows that I've attended as a kid. It's the same as grabbing the set list off the stage of your favorite band. But I have a card. You guys have seen it. It's somewhere in my desk here that Carolina Teague scribbled all over. So the other day, I'm sure you saw it, I have the card from the timekeeper's table. And Ridley Thorne herself wrote down all of those times. So while she was not, competing at the event, she was in attendance, and it was nice to get to stop and see Ridley, and she is resting and recovering and will hopefully be back very, very soon. So that was RCW Honors. That was a recap of everything that has happened in the last week or so. We're at an hour and 4, and I know that this will get smooshed down as I do some editing and things like that. But that's all I've really got to talk about. Stick around. I've got Julian Knopf Ramos of Tall Can Listening. He's ready to come on the show. And then I've gotten word from Heather Sneathan. Our good friend Heather from St. Joe is going to join us. And I want to talk to her about the steroid Olympics. And then she's got a review of the new Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce restaurant. So hopefully we will get to hear that soon on the Logan Pettis Show. I want to thank you all for listening. And yeah, stay tuned. Same bat time, same bat channel. Zactionary, boss of the ring. Anyway, play us out.
Baby, no one better.